Alright guys, the curse of the Vampire Coast is finally here, and what better way to kick off the glorious return to ladder than a game with Grimgor Ironhide. So as far as the matchup goes, we're going to be playing the Greenskins led by Grimgor. We're going to be facing off against the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Luthor, Harkin, atop his mighty Deathstreak Terrorgeist. So as far as Grimgor goes, he did get a couple buffs, so he got a big mass increase, so he's a little bit tougher to knock over. No buffs to his HP, which I would have really liked to have seen him get like 500, 750 HP, maybe even 1,000. I think that would have been pretty nice. But regardless, he did get a mass increase, and he also got a pretty substantial buff to his melee defense. So I think he got like 10 melee defense or 15. I know it used to be in the 30s, and that was one of the big issues as well, because he just got, punched in the face by enemy AP lords. But a little bit better now. We're going to be giving him a try. And yes, we are facing off against the Vampire Coast. And we got quite a horde here. So typically to beat the Vampire Coast, I think the best way to do it is just go super wide and use bows. And Greenskins actually have some really good tools against Vampire Coast. So the front line is just going to be Orc Boys and Savage Orcs. I think there's 3 Savage Orcs in total and like 5 or 6 Orc Boys. The Orc Boys do, of course, have shields, which is going to be very nice against gunnery mobs and things like that. Savage Orcs are going to be doing more of the lawn mowing, very, very vulnerable against missile fire, right? So if gunnery mobs or anyone, take sight of the Savage Orcs, it's going to be trouble for them. But granted, we just have so many numbers, so we don't really care. It's a massive wall here. You can see we have a huge battle line. It's basically stretching across like almost most of the map here. So Orc Boys and Savage Orcs in the front line. In the secondary line, we got a bunch of Night Goblins. So in total, we do have 5, with one of them being the Rusty Arrows. Bows are so damn good against the Vampire Coast. So I definitely think that's one of the stronger ways to deal with the coast. And a lot of players initially, from my experience, I played about 7 or 8 games today. You're not seeing too many like Fellbats or Direwolves or things like that. A lot of people are using the big monsters. And yeah, the Gallows Giant actually got fixed, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Colossus actually does quite a bit more damage now, so you definitely have to pay some respect to that bad boy. But we got the Goblin Archers. In the back, we have 2 Biggins. Biggins did get I think they got a buff as well. I can't quite remember, but I think they did. On top of that, we have a Night Goblin Shaman, and there's actually a really nice change to the Night Goblin Shaman, which I think is going to make him even more competitive. Gork will fix it. Now, it costs 7 wins of magic, but the speed got buffed. So now it lowers speed by almost 50%, which is so damn good, especially if you're getting like a massive Goblin firing squad on the target. So great stuff from the Goblin Night Shaman there. We got 2 groups of Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. One of them is going to be the Durkit Squigs, who are down here in the low ground. They're going to be going and hunting, and they're a really good choice. They do well against Depth Guard. They do well against zombie mobs. They can chase down the gunnery mobs. They're just a really, really solid pick in this matchup. So we got those guys, and that's pretty much it. Just a very wide, thick Greenskin force, and hopefully it'll do the trick. For my opponent, he does have Luthor Harkin, who's pretty scary. Luthor can use, I think he's probably one of the better picks against Greenskins. He can actually use his debuff to add 15 seconds to your cooldowns, which means you can't use the wah in the beginning of the battle. So very, very good stuff there. He's probably going in to do that. Granted, hopefully I can punish him a little bit with my archers and stuff. Aside from that, he does have the Torch, so the Gallows Giant Necrofex Colossus. This guy is basically the Flamethrower Giant. And he did get some changes to, because I know in the I was about to say the pre-LC, but the pre-release that we were playing on, it seemed like his Flamethrower didn't really work, but I played a couple games with him today, and he seems to be okay. So have to keep an eye on him, see how he does. In the front line, my opponent does have gunnery mobs and, yeah, just zombie deckhands. So pretty cool stuff. He has a blooded corpse here in the back, which if my Greenskin troops 2 or 3 groups blob up, he could get some really good value. But again, it's going to be very micro-intensive. He does have a Vampire Caster as well with the Drowned Dead and Invocation, probably the best, most competitive choice for the Vampire Coast. More guns on the flank, so a very gun-centric army with, of course, a big Colossus as its kind of centerpiece. And Luthor Harkin on the Terrorgeist is going to be really scary against Greenskins. But Grimgor is a Footlord, right? So he's not going to be as big of a target for Luthor. So that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's see if the wall can do it. So initially, Luthor does come in, and what's really cool about the Night Goblin Archers is they do have stock. So my opponent doesn't know I have them until he gets close. They take some pretty substantial damage, and the Flamethrower, a little bit obstructed there, still does some decent HP damage, but had it not been obstructed, it would have done some pretty good work. I had a game actually 2 or 3 games ago where it really did some heavy roasting. But anyways, in the front line, taking a lot of powder, but again, the map's a decent one. Here we do have the Savage Orcs colliding with the Tides of Skjold. And even though the Tides are pretty strong, the Savage Orcs are going to cut them to pieces. We have a huge wall going around the top as well. We got Orc Boys, we got Savage Orcs, we got the Durkit Squig Hoppers. And at this point, Grimgor is going to be leading the charge right up the pipe, just given the wah. And I can't use it quite yet. I think I still have 15 seconds on it because of the Power Siphon from Luthor. But now the Goblin Archers are in position. They're going to start unleashing hell on the Gallows Giant, doing huge work. Here comes some roasting, doing a little bit of work against Orc Boys, but still slightly obstructed with its positioning. The Gallows Giant is actually better in melee, so the ranged attack is okay, but it really shines in melee combat. So he's just kind of roasting here, taking massive fire, shooting a torrent of, doing good damage against those Orc Boys. In the back, the Squigs have gotten around his defenses, and they're just going to be chasing down the zombie gunnery mobs, and they're going to chew these guys up. The wah is now here. We got 48 melee attack. So the wah has been slightly nerfed. It's still AoE, hits your whole army, but the melee attack has been lowered, but it's still really, really good, right? So the mobs in the front line are doing okay. Orc boys, of course, are wavering because there's a scary Colossus nearby. But look at the sheer firepower of this Goblin firing line. So this Colossus is just in the wrong neighborhood. And down he goes, just getting absolutely roasted by the Goblins. And I feel like he might be a pretty good pick against like Beastmen, but against Greenskins with rusty arrows. And once people start to figure out that arrows are really, really good against Vampire Ghosts, just look at it fall apart. He could have done well for sure, but yeah, it just wasn't his day. So in the front line, Grimgor is fighting in the pocket. It looks like Luthor Harkin is trying to snipe him. I use Gorkle Fix It to slow him, putting him down to 26 speed. And that means that even Grimgor is able to outmaneuver him. So Grimgor moves away and is still being hunted by Luthor. But again, when Luthor's in here, he's taking that heavy Goblin firepower. And we have a lot of boys rallying, or retreating, because again, they are undead. The Depth Guard, of course, are a hard counter against light infantry. 23 kills. They just buckled those Orc boys, but we just have so many Orcs. I mean, the entire back line is being swarmed by Orc boys here. You can see the Orc boys here chasing, these Orc boys here just going. I mean, Savage Orcs sweeping around the flanks. Dirkit Squigs have gotten into the back line, and Squig Hoppers definitely seem like pretty good here. They give you that AP against Depth Guard if you really need it, but Depth Guard definitely, I think they got rebalanced. I still think they're very, very good. Depth Guard are an incredible counter against like troops like Orc boys and Savage Orcs and things like that, but with sheer numbers, we can definitely do some KRUMPIN on them and get a good surround. But yeah, they are into the back line, cleaving the rusty arrows. So well played to my opponent there, hunting those bad boys down. But the Savage Orcs are on the hunt with sneaky stabbing. Hopefully they'll be able to do some work. Luthor Harkin took a ton of damage. Grimgor is actually fighting Depth Guard here, which is his element, right? He's heavily armored, has 120 armor. And Depth Guard, ooh, just getting cleaved asunder by Grimgor. So pretty happy to see him actually performing well this game. I mean, he survived some gooning. He's done some pretty good chopping in the front line. He's a cheap option. He costs like 1,700. Now, I still think that Grimgor is one of the weaker lords. I think Warzog or maybe even Azog would have been a little bit better here. But, you know, I mean, he's doing the trick. He's doing okay. I mean, no complaints. Definitely nice getting that melee defense. That melee defense probably saved him from dying against Luthor, right? Luthor could have connected with like 1 or 2 more shots. And that could have been all she wrote for Grimgor so far. But anyways, in the back here, Savage Orcs are still cleaning up, trying to do the best they can against these zombie pirate deckhand mobs. A little bit surrounded, but still 109 kills. So the Savage Orcs and Orc boys are really performing quite well. Squig Hoppers in the back clean something up, so I definitely need to give them some more orders. But this is a little bit scary. I've been Hornswoggled, down to 90 armor. The Depth Guard are doing better. And Luthor Harkin coming in with the Vampire Steel Chair, as they call it. And yeah, he's got the speed of Lycos, which actually gives him stalk and unspottable. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I don't think I saw him coming, which is a really neat thing there. But again, I do use Gorkle Fix It, trying to squeak Grimgor away, but Grimgor has probably met his final doom here, as he does put up a last stand fight against Luthor Harkin. But there's just boys everywhere, just Orcs piling in from every direction. We still have Biggins, who of course are quite strong, and it looks like the Vampire Fleet Captain is trying to get into my back line, going after some of the Goblins, but Savage Orcs, yeah, unfortunately, those guys are broken, so it's going to be up to the lads here to fight this guy off. But I have plenty of Orcs to help out. Balance of power a little bit in my favor, but again, you know, Luthor Harkin is always a threat, but those Goblin Archers are, yeah, I think it's pretty much going to be all she wrote for the Vampire Coast here, as, you know, the Goblin Archers are just able to wither things down. In the back, he did have some Depth Guard, who did quite well. 135 kills, performing as they should. And the Orc boys and just like the Goblin Shaman back here, and just like sheer just numbers and just the wall just swarming with Savage Orcs. We're able to finally just grind down those Depth Guard, which is very, very nice. I remember during like Ever Chosen, those guys were just like indestructible war machines, but they've definitely been tuned down a little bit, which is nice. Anyways, over here, Luthor Harkin looks like he tried to get a Deathstreak Terrorgeist attack. The Goblin Archers are going to be unleashing a lot of power, firepower on him, and he does have good armor, but it's not like a heavily armored, like 100 armor, unit. He still can take, decent damage from like regular Goblin Archers and things like that. So we're getting some damage in. He does about 900 HP. Of course, he does have healing. And it looks like the Vampire Fleet Captain over here is able to summon the Drowned Dead. You probably should have summoned it like right on top of the boys just to get better saturation, but nonetheless, it will keep them alive. So over here, Grimgor is trying to come back. He is rallying in the sunset now, yelling at the Savage Orcs and the other boys over here, telling them to get back in there before he cracks their skulls. But it looks like Luthor Harkin is going to be taken out by the Goblin firing line. And as the battle ends, Grimgor releases a glorious wah. And you can see that the last of the Vampire Coast is going to be getting crumped on by some of the boys down here. So yeah, I definitely think this is going to be true for most builds, that if you really want to take out Vampire Ghost armies, just go super wide, swarm them. Don't give them any good targets and just go ham. The Goblin firing line, really, really good. I mean, just having a ton of Night Goblin Archers is very powerful against Vampire Coast because they have stock, so they can't even like deal with them with mortars or artillery or things like that. They have to deal with them up close. Now, I think what Vampire Coast has to do in response to the style of play of just going super wide, they need to bring things. The Colossus is cool and all, and it definitely causes fear and terror, but in this matchup, I don't think it's that viable of a pick. The Bloated Corpse did okay. I mean, if you just cut these two, I mean, obviously people are experimenting. It's the first couple days of launch here, but yeah, I think I would probably cut the Gallows Giant and cut the Bloated Corpse, maybe cut down on the gunnery mobs a little bit and just get like some more width. I would get some Scurvy Dogs to chase down the Goblin Archers, some Fellbats to do a little bit of harass in that same suit there, because if you can deal with the greenskin archers, like everything else you have, like Luthor and those things are just going to be running wild, right? So I think that's kind of the direction to go there. So let's go ahead and go over to the Vampire Coast and like put together a build. And yes, I have a ton of good replays, man. There you go. So we are the Vampire Coast playing against Greenskins. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we do. I mean, Sloystra honestly could be okay here. She causes terror. She's ethereal. She's pretty tough to kill. But if they do bring Azag, she's going to get put in a trash can pretty quick. I do think Luthor Harkin is still a really good choice. Maybe one of the more competitive ones. And Count Noxus, of course, is super scary as always. So any three of these lore choices are good. I wouldn't go with Aranessa. She's just going to get pounded by pretty much all of the Greenskin units. Luthor, Celestra, or do we want Count Noxus? I mean, Count Noxus is just so solid. He's just such a powerful lord. So let's go with Count Noxus for now. Although Luthor flying, he's so powerful, like sniping out Greenskin lords and things like that. But yeah, we'll go with Noxus. I mean, just take this with a grain of salt. Him or Luthor would work. If you want to go with Luthor, just get him and get a Vampire Caster. If you want to go with Noxus, just get him on his Colossus and do your thing. So we're going to get him here. Just being able to summon zombies to get to like knock things down is always going to be very powerful. I do think the deckhand mobs in the front are good for absorbing the initial wah. The depth card pick isn't bad. I really think that the Morngul Haunter is going to be pretty good as well. Just to kind of go after Greenskin Lords and cause problems, terror. He's just a nightmare to deal with for sure. So on top of that, we probably want to get a couple. Yeah, we probably want to get another one of these. I would just go like really heavy in like the harass here. Get like 2 Scurvy Dogs and 2 Fellbats and just kind of try and make it very miserable for them. You could go with Prometheans. Prometheans aren't bad. They do have heavy armor, so most Greenskin infantry aren't going to be able to deal with them very efficiently. So I would mix in a couple of Prometheans probably. And deck droppers with handguns also not bad. The bombers just don't perform well. I really saw what you guys were saying about those guys, and they just like don't really do the trick. So far you have the front line to absorb the wall. You're going to be flanking around with Scurvy Dogs. It's really important in this matchup to shut down the archers of your opponent, because if you don't, like, you're just going to lose. It's just Noctis will get beaten up. The Morngul Haunter will die to the rest of the air. So it's really contingent on that, getting in there and just causing problems. I mean, bombers, man, I feel like they might be okay against goblins. I haven't really tested them, so I don't want to like say that they're a good option yet. But regardless, you can get like, I mean, there's a bunch of directions. I don't know. You already have a Necrofex Colossus, which is your centerpiece. You have the crabs to deal with infantry. They're really good against Greenskin infantry. They are tough to kill for sure. Morngul's are okay, but their armor is so light that Goblin Archers are going to cut them up. And on top of that, they're probably going to take too much damage from Savage Orcs and Biggins to be worth it. So yeah, I would probably go that direction. You could even get a couple Depth Guard. Depth Guard actually aren't bad here. Sirens are okay as well in case they go with like Black Orcs. And I mean, you can even just go like mass monster mash, like get a ton of heavy monsters and charge in and just like try and win that with that direction, like get another one of these. The Direwolves and the Fellbats just swarming around the back, or the Scurvy Dogs, as they say. And yeah, I kind of like the 3 Prometheans. I feel like that's pretty good. And a second Haunter could even be really, really scary for the Greenskins to deal with. So yeah, Noxus is just so powerful. He's going to be causing so many problems. So on top of that, maybe you just cut like, is there anything else we can cut here? You know, like we have the Smoke and Mirrors is okay. We don't really need the speed buff, so we could probably cut that to get some depth. It doesn't give us enough. I hate when that happens. It's like the worst feeling. It is the worst feeling. Worst. Yeah, maybe you cut one of these guys and just get like one group of depth guard, just kind of like anchor at Noctilus's feet. And then from there, you can just get like another gunnery mob. So this would be pretty good, right? You advance. Noctilus is shooting things. The Morngul Haunter is going, you know, anchoring your front line. The Prometheans are doing stuff. But it's really going to be dependent on how much work you can do with your Scurvy Dogs and your Fellbats. I mean, it might even be worth it to like readjust your army to get more Scurvy Dogs, but that's just my 2 cents. So anyways, very well played to my opponent. It was a very fun game. Always a good time to get Grimgor. And yeah, he did okay. I wasn't upset about it. I mean, of course, Luthor Harkin was able to give him the business, but you know, Grimgor, he put up a fight. He let loose some great battle cries, and it was a lot of fun. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we will be back with more content soon. Take care.